How's it going, guys? Finally, I'm here to do an animation episode in this new crib, in this new place, and I'm happy to be here with all of you once again. In this episode, I want to cover something that I feel there's a bit of confusion out there, which is the role of a gameplay animator. So in games, there is cutscenes and there's gameplay. And those two things actually work very, very differently. And I want to clarify what a gameplay animator specifically does, because I feel like there's a lot of confusion and it's time for us to actually get that out of the way. As you guys know, I love animation and I also love games. And I work for an upcoming company called Build a Rocket Boy. I'm gameplay animation director, and within this company I've been getting quite a lot of applications from different animators trying to actually get into gameplay animation. I genuinely think that being a gameplay animator is the most rewarding thing you can do, but you do need to have a bit of a technical mind as well as an artistic mind and merge them all together. The end result is fantastic. Obviously, games talk for themselves. It's really, really rewarding to see your character moving around, doing the things that you actually intended it to do, but it actually requires quite a lot of work to see your animations moving around and interacting with the environment, the objects, and all that good stuff. I want to take a few moments next to kind of explain what the role entails, some of the stuff that you're actually going to face as a gameplay animator, dispel some of the confusion going on around the role of gameplay animator, and also hopefully give you a little piece of my mind on why that role is so amazing. So, welcome to episode 38. Let's get to it. I've been 6 times, so I'm hoping my 7th is the New Orleans. And Brazil is still on my bucket list, and not just for the carnival, but culture-wise I love the mix. After Copacabana, I want to. As a gameplay animator, your first job, the most important job that you have to do, without a doubt, is to animate at a very high level. So all the years that you put into actually making yourself a better animator, all of that stuff is going to bode super well for you, because that is ultimately what you want to achieve. You actually want to have high quality animations, doesn't matter if it's motion capture or hand key, and to make sure that those animations are of the utmost quality no matter what you are animating. Even after you get your first job as a gameplay animator, I have seen through the years that a lot of people just get caught up with the technicality of gameplay animation, and they forget about the animation aspect of animation and the art of animation. So they just go into like the how to integrate it in engine, how to make it work and all that stuff, but the raw asset, the raw animation, it's actually not good. So focus on your animation skill, be the best animator you can be, and then you can actually start focusing on the rest of the stuff. I still consider myself an animator first. So I'm always looking for the art of the animation, as you guys may have noticed here in this channel, right? I'm always talking about that. But you do need to actually think technically about your animation. So when you play a game, if the game makes you feel really, really good as a player and is an interactive experience and the animations are shining through, most likely you must have thought, what have they done to the animation to make me feel so good in this specific moment? And what you have to keep in mind is that in games, unlike film or VFX or any other medium, the pipeline, the way things actually are stacked together, like in terms of art and design and code and all that stuff, is not really linear per se, right? It's almost like circular. The engine is in the middle and you have departments all around pumping things into an engine to make the game work. The best thing about having an engine is that I think games is the most collaborative art form out there, because that engine makes you have to talk with other departments to make your animations, your work shine through. How does that work? Is up to you and that someone or that department, and you have to find a solution. But either way, guarantee you when you get into games, certain things are going to break, certain things are not going to work, and you need to find out how to actually make them work. That actually is sometimes too much for a lot of people, because they just want to focus on their animations, and fair point, right? That's what you do in film. But in games, not so much. In games, you need to actually think about the end goal at all times. It almost feels like you are slicing through your animation. So you don't have like a seamless just going into the ladder, grabbing it and then going up and then coming out. That doesn't happen in game, because at some point the engine needs to go like, here's the ladder, I need to interact with the ladder, press the button, interact, you grab the ladder, and then at that point you have the loop, go up, you go up as long as you need to go, and at some point you have to come out. So at some point you're like, okay, come out, okay, and then you come out, right? It kind of like trips people up because it feels like, why can't I just see the animation in one go in Maya, right? I have to put it in game, I have to put it into 3 different animations, in 3 different slots, and then I have to press loads of buttons in order to actually set up things in a certain way. So you look at your Maya scene, it's one thing, and you look at your game scene and your gameplay animation, and it's something completely different. So you kind of go like, what happened there, right? That's when you get to speak with other people to be like, no, I want it like this. I want it how it was in my Maya. How can I make it this way? And that persistence, that cycle, is what will make you a good gameplay animator, right? Because you want to see your animations with as much quality as possible. How can we actually make it work? Do I have to tweak my animation slightly to actually make it work better? Perhaps. Or do we have to actually kind of work with the engine to actually make it better? Perhaps. So you have to actually kind of constantly go through that loop. So this is the other element that people don't tell you whenever you go to animation school about being a gameplay animator. Now, I personally think that is the most fulfilling job that you can have as an animator, because I feel like the interaction of games gives you something that you cannot get from any other medium. As much as I've done cutscenes, I love cutscenes, it's really, really cool. The thing that people spend the most time doing in a game is playing the game, right? So those animations that you've done, so let's say God of War, right? That axe throw animation, that jumping animation, whatever is in the game, that stuff is going to be seen hundreds of times by the player. And that is satisfying for you to know that you've done that. And if it feels good and if it looks good, it's because you did it. So that's why gameplay animation is so important to me and is so amazing to me. One other aspect that will make you an excellent gameplay animator is understanding animation systems. So like any other craft, you have to study it, right? How do they actually connect one thing to the other, put it all together and make it work seamlessly, right? When Kratos was actually going through the wall and actually grasping the wall and just going through like little ravines, how did they do that, right? The throw mechanic, how did they do that? So things like that are the things that I call like animation systems, and it's not only animation that requires much more of collaborative effort to make. You need to kind of like break them down in your head to try to understand how they could have achieved something like this in whatever engine you decide to work on. And then maybe try to replicate it. Which kind of animations would you need? Where would you break them? And how would they be seamless to actually interact with each other? And that is basically thinking systematically about animation, which is something that you normally don't do when you just animate things from A to B. When you have a scene and then you go to the other scene and then you go to the other scene. It's difficult to wrap your head around, but once you do it, all of a sudden you look at games very differently as an animator. So that's really special. So yeah, that's basically what it is like to have the role of a gameplay animator. It's a lot to take in, but it's not nearly as difficult as I made it sound. Overall, people have a lot of fun. Once you have done it in 1-2 games, all of a sudden you're like, man, this is really good. And you just kind of like keep like upgrading not only your animations, but your technical knowledge and engine knowledge and how you can actually make things work. And it's almost like looking at the Matrix. All of a sudden, you know, every engine has the same buttons somewhere, just named differently. Where are those buttons and how can I fit my animations in so I can make something special happen, right? And then you start to become creative with it. It's something else. It's something that you have to witness it, you have to actually experience it to know what I mean. You start to develop a need to just like do gameplay animations and work with engines, and soon enough you're probably just downloading Unreal or any other engine and trying your systems for yourself. It's a beautiful thing. Let's talk now about how can you apply and what's the best thing that you can do to actually apply for a job as a gameplay animator. We have been getting a lot of applications from just like straight up awesome animators. Whenever we ask, do you love games? Do you play games? If someone says no, then something is wrong there, right? Because why would you actually want to be a gameplay animator if you don't play games, but you love animation. Obviously, you're kind of setting yourself for failure there, because you need to actually have passion for games and animation in order to do both things. So passion for games is definitely number one. And then they want to see that you actually at least have a slight grasp on animation systems. And you actually showcase that in your showreel very easily. A lot of people are doing that now, and I think more people should do that. And it's by showcasing just in Maya, you don't even have to have an engine or anything. It's just in Maya how you would split a set amount of animations and what kind of buttons you press to actually make those motions, right? So if it's a guy or a girl actually punching a wall, destroying the wall, rolling, jumping, grabbing something, all of those things can be broken down into like little pieces. So it means that like this animation can connect with maybe a jump, but it can also connect with a punch, let's say, right? So you kind of start kind of like branching out your knowledge of animations to know that you have to have poses to hit a certain marker or a certain frame in order for you to actually spread out and not only just like blend that animation with one other animation, but you can blend that animation with many others, right? So then you have variants of the same thing. So it means that you're thinking about gameplay animation in a much more broader way than just like going from A to B to C. That's not really what you do in gameplay. So what you should do is actually showcase some kind of like gameplay mechanic that it's in your mind. It doesn't really matter if you like Nintendo Super Mario games or if you like hardcore Silent Hill kind of games, right? It doesn't really matter. What matters is the passion that you have for games, and you actually want to make them and you want to know what's behind it, especially for juniors. So if you're a junior animator or just getting started, whenever you get your first job, whenever you go to an interview, try to research their games and then try to make sure that you ask questions pertinent to the games. Try to dissect their animation systems and try to come up with questions about how did they achieve certain things. If you ask those in the interview, it means that you're already thinking the right way, and it means that they will actually start kind of capturing the fact that you are indeed a true gameplay animator and you are ready to actually kind of not only do the animations, but actually implementing the animations in game. And that second part, implementing the animations in game, is not as glamorous and it's not as fun as doing animation, especially in the beginning. You'll find fun in it after a few years of working in games, but right at the beginning, because you've been animating for so many years, you will not find fun implementing things in game. It's gonna be a lot of buttons that you have to push, implementing things here and there, and try to actually find out how things connect, and working with like all kinds of blend spaces and making different animations for different angles. It's going to be super hardcore, but a year or two from now, you are going to be in a great place, especially if you're very technically minded. Think about that. Think about gameplay. Make sure it's right for you. And if it is right for you, then make sure that you're passionate about it. And make sure whenever you apply, that you showcase your love for games and your understanding of games to anyone that interviews you. That is the most important thing. I keep talking here in these videos about how young our industry is, and it's very true. First, people don't know what exactly it takes to be a gameplay animator. And then second, different studios, different places have different pipelines. So things are not like standardized like in cinema. That's why it's so difficult to not only explain, but to also make sure that people have a generic idea of what it is to be a gameplay animator. Some studios are more technical than others. You do much more technical than animation. Some studios actually have only animators animating and doing nothing else, and then they have other people, technical animators, implementing the animations. So you almost like split those two things, right? So you just focus on animation and then you just put the animations in game. So that's basically the disparity between the two sides. I genuinely believe that all gameplay animators should actually put their own animations in game. And the reason why I think that is because if you work in a game, then the only thing you do is animate, which I have worked before, and then you give your animation to someone and they'll disappear into ether. The person that's going to put it in game most likely has other priorities than actually make your animations look exactly as you intended it to look. For them, perhaps it's more important for the animations to work together, right, in unison, than to actually make your specific animation sync. Now, On the flip side of the coin, if you actually really want to put your own animations in game, it means that you see the whole process through, and then when you see them in game, not only do you see the problems if there's problems, but you also get to actually go back to the beginning, go to Maya and redo the animations or re-edit the animations if you need to in order to make them look better. And then eventually you get to exactly the point that you wanted. And what you see in engine, obviously, is the most important thing because that is basically what people are going to play, right? So even if it looks rubbish in Maya, it should look good in engine. So that's why I think all animators that work in games should actually implement their own animations so they see the final result. It's not the most satisfying work for you to actually have to do like 20 frame animations that the character just does this, right? And you have to do many of them, many variations to create a blend space, to make sure that they blend together and all that stuff. So that is not enjoyable. But if you do all of those animations, right, you export them all, and then you see them in game, all of a sudden you're controlling a character that did not turn before, and now is turning, and is turning perfectly. And it's all thanks to you. And that's why I think that bridge should always be there, because people get hooked on it. I certainly have, and there's nothing better. That's why I really love games and I love what I'm doing right now. So yeah, that is basically the conclusion that I wanted to actually give you guys. And I cannot close this episode without saying that if you actually want to apply, obviously feel free to apply to Build a Rocket Boy, where I work. No matter where you come from, no matter where you are, as long as you're talented, as long as you have what it takes, apply, and we'll love to hear more from you. So yeah, I'll leave a link down below if you guys are interested in applying. But no matter where your dream job is, I hope this works really well for everyone, because I think that having clarity about what you're going to do as a gameplay animator will then allow you to enjoy the job much better. I have also seen a lot of people coming in thinking that the only thing they're going to do is animate for games, and then when they actually get faced with all these technicalities and stuff, they get disheartened and they just want to leave, and it's not so good, right? So I don't want you guys to actually kind of fall into that trap, because gameplay animation is wonderful, it's amazing, and I think is the future of where things are going. So, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, I hope it was useful, and stay well, stay safe, peace.